So I'm going to talk about stealing from artificial intelligence, because I started out, is that echoing for everybody else, or is it just me? It's okay, cool. So I started out a proper geek. I built my first, I cobbled together my first computer from broken pieces from my dad's office when I was about 8 years old. When I was 14, I built part of South Africa's first satellite, which was terrible, because once something you soldered has gone into space, pretty much the rest of your life is a downhill road, right? There's nothing, like, what the fuck can I do that's cooler than that as an adult, right? But you know, I got over it, and I studied computer science with a focus on artificial intelligence, and did some other stuff along the way. I worked for Procter & Gamble for many years, most of them in Newcastle, so it's great to be home for a while here. Wrote a book, led the Government Digital Services Delivery Organization when they were building GovUK, and I'm currently CTOing for a healthcare startup that's building stuff for people with Parkinson's to better manage their condition. But I first realized that maybe being a bit of a polymath and looking around at different areas might be useful when I did my undergrad research, and I was the only thing in the middle of that Venn diagram. So I did a thesis that was looking at reapplying artificial intelligence to project management. Nobody else does that. It's not a very common overlap. But what I found was that actually there's a lot of stuff in artificial intelligence where planning has advanced that was really applicable to project management, and that a lot of what project management and people like Prince and PMP and similar, they tell you that our problem is the squishy humans. Our problem is compliance. The theories are great, and we're just not following the rules well enough. That's what PM thinks the problem is. But what I found when I looked at AI was when we tried to do those same things, it didn't work. Even when you had, basically computers that don't get frustrated, don't get angry, don't go home complaining to their partners, and certainly don't mind doing things repetitively over and over again. And so the kind of outcome of my undergrad research was to go, okay, we've been trying to solve the squishy human problem for a long time and not realizing that even computers can't do this, so we should maybe move on, right? And the kind of key lesson I took away was enabling agents, in the technical sense, to make decisions and act independently, but always towards a common goal, is what leads to that successful complex action. And for those of you familiar with Agile, that kind of sounds a little bit familiar, right? But then my career, so I'd gone from being a developer and then a tech arc to being product and project managing at P&G, because they outsourced all their tech and now they're trying to bring it back, but that's a whole separate issue. And then I got made a people manager. And my God, that was scary. Because I didn't want to be a bad boss. Because we all hate bad bosses, right? And we all laugh at Dilbert, but a little bit of us dies inside because it's so true. And we describe them as clueless and empty suits and pointless. And is everybody familiar with the Seagull Style of management? You fly in, you shout at everybody, you shit on everything, and then you fly away. And I'd had a few bad management experiences, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be a bad boss. I can't carry off the haircut, never mind anything else. Katarina Fake summarized it beautifully a little while later, where she said, there's three kinds of managers: the shit umbrella, the shit funnel, and the shit fan. You're either protecting people from it, putting it on them, or just spreading it everywhere. And so I was like, okay, there's my bare minimum. I need to. Good managers are bullshit umbrellas. And so if you're doing anything right, you're stopping crap landing on your people. If you're a good manager, but there are also a lot more than that. And while I was at university, and then in the decade I was at P&G, I got exposed to a lot of traditional management wisdom. Traditional management wisdom is bullshit, and pretty much all the actual data and all the actual stats does show that quite well, but we still somehow hang on to quite a lot of it. And so having realized that maybe in the same way where project management was saying squishy humans are the problem, they're just not complying well enough, a lot of the traditional management wisdom sounded the same. Our problem is not that this is a flawed process. An annual review is the right thing to do. There's no other way. It's just that you're not doing it well enough. That's what the problem is here. And that made me think back to my artificial intelligence stuff and going, well, actually, maybe there's something in this enabling agents or people to make decisions and act independently, but always towards a common goal. Maybe that might be the thing to aim for again. And then I found this book, and I'm a bit of a geek about management as well as being a tech geek. And this book is amazing because it basically confirms that all traditional management wisdom is bullshit, which is great. But it's data-based. And they went and they surveyed hundreds of thousands of people. They went around to all different kinds of companies, all different kinds of industries, and basically went like, what's your best performing team? And what makes them different? Why does this division outearn that division? Why does this restaurant deliver such better profits, such better customer satisfaction? Why are your best your best? And they came up with these 12 predictors of performance. So there are other things that matter as well, but these are the things that specifically matter for high performance. And everybody's squinting at the screen, and that's fine. And I will publish the slides, so don't feel like you have to all write down 12 things. And so your reaction to that is, great, now I'm drowning in 12 questions that I've got to care about. So I'll take another book, which I also love, and probably more of you have read or seen a video of or similar. And Dan Pink talks about motivation and there being a need to have purpose, autonomy, and mastery. And so if we think about motivation as being, do I believe in why we're doing this? Do I get a say in what? The autonomy. And am I proud of how we're working? That's the mastery. And then you subtract anything that's negative, that's maybe detracting from that. Then we can remix those 12 things and go, actually, almost everything fits into one of those categories. So, of those 12 questions, there's some about purpose, there's some that are really about autonomy, and there's some about mastery. And then there's some other ones too. And so the other ones that are not in those three categories are all around, do I feel like I belong here? Do I feel like I have am I recognized or praised for good work? Do I have a best friend at work? Does my supervisor or someone at work seem to care about me as a person? And I think that's really about being respected and rewarded, and about being yourself. The best friend at work one is one of the most controversial questions in those 12, because you shouldn't be able to dictate that, right? But the kind of place where you feel like you can make really good friends is one of the things that's going to make you most happy and most successful career-wise. And I kind of bundle all of that up into inclusion. And so having learned all of that, I figured that actually what your job is as a manager is to create space for people to be awesome. And that means got it wrong way. And so as an individual, your job is to find space to be awesome, or shape space to be awesome. And the good news is we now kind of know what things are needed for you to feel like you can be awesome. So you believe in why you're doing the work, and you get to shape what and how you work, and that you feel like you're getting better at how you do things as well. And that mastery one is one of the most important for, particularly for technical folks and creative folks, because I think everything else can be perfect. You can be working on a thing you believe in a way that you believe in, but if you feel like the product you're producing is just not good enough, then it's very hard to keep particularly technical and creative people engaged. And that, do I feel like I belong there, is also a big part of it. And there's probably 3 hours I could do on diversity and inclusion and some of the challenges we have in tech, so I will not go into that. But that essential feeling of, can somebody like me be successful here is something that's really important. And, there's a corresponding set of questions you ask yourself as a manager. But practically, what do we really need to do? So what we really need to do is a few different things. So what's needed for space to be awesome? We need to protect purpose. We need to translate. And so you translate purpose, strategy, direction. helping people day to day know how what they're doing connects to the broader vision for the organization, for the people you're trying to serve, or the thing you're trying to build, or the service you're trying to deliver. And some of the best managers I've ever seen have done this extraordinarily well. Somebody who can make, running the banking run in SAP for a massive company relate to making consumers' lives better every day. It's a little bit of a jump, right? I'm hitting these keys, somebody's life is getting better. But making that translation is really important. And I think a lot of the time it's very easy to forget that people need to be reminded of why we're doing things. The next thing is to enable autonomy and mastery. And something I'm stealing from management here is a thing called situational leadership, which nobody ever understands and doesn't make any sense. And so I've renamed it the Clue Skills Matrix, which is for anybody on a particular thing, they're in one of these 4 quadrants. So they either, they're up in the top right, they know exactly what to do, and they know how to do it. And if they're there, your job as a manager is basically to be you're essentially a cheerleader and a bulldozer. You get shit out of their way, and you tell them that they're awesome. It's true, right? But not everybody's there, and not everybody has to be there. That's not like the only successful employee. But they might be in one of the other areas. So people who know what to do but don't have the skills to do it, they need some training, some help. They need someone to help them develop those skills. People who have the skills and need direction, they need some mentoring, some coaching. People who are like, what, huh? They probably need more help. So equipping with skills and then giving more definite direction. And when this is expressed as situational leadership, there's a conversation about the only appropriate time to give somebody exactly what they should do and exactly how they should do it is that bottom left quadrant. What do most managers default to doing? If they feel that somebody needs some direction, they tell them exactly what to do and exactly how to do it, and they beat their soul into submission to the point that they go, I'm going to go work at McDonald's because I'll have more autonomy, thanks. And so try and avoid that. Do not default to always thinking that you have to tell people exactly what to do and exactly how to do it, because if you wanted robots, you should build them. And actually, you should probably make them autonomous anyway, but that's a whole separate AI discussion. So if your job in the top right is to be a cheerleader and a bulldozer, your job, if they lack direction, is to provide it or to help them figure out what it is. One of the things that's really useful here is to help people by going, come to me and tell me what you think you should do, rather than always just asking. And you'll be surprised how many of your people know exactly what they should do, but they're so used to asking you for direction that they're not in the habit of proposing their own ideas. And the best way to help somebody who needs more skills is really to pair them up with somebody who's already got the skills, and both in a pair programming way, but also in other areas. When somebody's developing new skills, remember that people go through stages. And so I can give the example of driving here, which I can't in London. They have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about driving. It's very confusing for me as a South African. We have to drive everywhere. And so whenever you start learning a skill, in the beginning you don't know what you're doing, and you don't even know what you don't know. Then you're unconsciously incompetent. You move on to being consciously incompetent. You're grinding the gears, but you at least know what the gears are. And then you see the look of intensity on somebody who's just passed their driver's license when they're driving, and it's like every fiber of their being is required to keep this car on the road, in this lane, going there. And then, the last time I drove to work and actually remembered the journey, that's the point at which you get to being unconsciously competent. So I can drive now, and I don't even remember half of the time I'm doing it anymore because I'm focused on other stuff. I'm like, this song is crap, Chris Wells is a dick. There's a lot of other stuff going through my head as I'm listening to the radio or whatever else as that's going on. And so the first thing is remember that there's that process of developing new skills and understanding, and make space for your people to go through that, because they can't just instantly go from, I don't know who I am, where I am, or what I'm doing, to automatically doing it all right. One of my other geeky fascinations is with a book called Talent is Overrated, which is the kind of more scientific version of Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, which is also a very good read. And the key point in that is that the way that you actually get better at stuff is by a process called deliberate practice. And that's not just doing a thing, but doing a thing in a way that you're motivated, that it actually takes some effort, that the design of the task takes into account what you already know, and that you immediately get some feedback on how you're doing, and that you repeatedly perform the same or similar tasks. And this is great when you think about, playing chess or sports, because you can repeatedly do the same thing over and over again, and you know whether you're getting better or not. One of the things that's very interesting is when you look at people who are extremely successful in industry, when you look at how they operate, they have found ways to construct their work so that it is deliberate practice. So they are they're doing things that are hard but not impossible. They are using all of their existing, a great deal of their existing knowledge to the best of their ability, but they get immediate feedback. They're the kind of people who will debrief after a presentation to immediately go, what went well, what didn't, how can I do that better? And so again, I'd encourage you to think about, for yourself and for your people, how is work that you're doing designed so that it's making a deliberate practice? Because the reality in industry is we don't get to rehearse very much. We don't get to practice and then we play one big tournament a year. We're really practicing in the work. It's they call on-the-job learning, right? Which is neither on the job and often not very learning. But again, I digress. And so think about how you can achieve that flow state. How can you match up what you're capable of, what your people are capable of, with the kind of right level of challenge, so that it's actually engaging and hard, and you're learning from doing it. And the other thing to do is to help people find coaches and mentors to be successful on their way. One of the other talks I do is about coaching and mentoring, and about the difference between the two. And people mix these up and they think they're the same thing. And what the difference is a mentor is usually somebody who's more experienced than you, that can give you advice. They can guide you towards your future. And that's quite different from somebody who can help you find the best way forward based on what you already know. And so the best coaches are actually, they're expert not at telling you what they would do or telling you what they think you should do. They're expert at talking to you in a way that you figure out that you already knew what you thought you should do. But now it's the front of your mind and you can make that active decision. And so for anybody who wants a bit more information on that, I've published some stuff about grow coaching and how you can develop those skills. It's also a useful thing to do. And so if we get to, we've talked about purpose, we've talked about autonomy and mastery, and now we're talking about inclusion. And so if you've got purpose and autonomy and mastery, you've got a thing to believe in, you've got, as an individual, you get to have some say in how to do the stuff, you're proud of how you're doing it, you've got the mastery. There are still people who leave those kind of environments. And I've talked to many over the years and been involved with lots of diversity inclusion work over the years. And making sure that all different kinds of people are able to succeed as themselves is the key part that is still missing sometimes. And again, I could talk for hours about diversity and inclusion. So the most important question, if there's one thing you take away from my talk today, please take this away, which is the best predictor of being able to recruit the people that you want and retain them, so not just attract them in, but keep them over time, is somebody's ability to agree with the statement, somebody like me can be successful here. And if you have people, if you struggle to keep certain demographics or struggle to, you've hired 6 designers in the last 5 months, think about whether somebody like them can be successful there. And that can be in terms of the skills they have and whether they're appreciated, in terms of their innate demographics are similar. But this is really the fundamental question that people ask themselves when they're deciding whether to stay or to go, whether they know it or not. And doing more to make sure that a wider number of people, a wider range of people can say yes to this question is one of the most powerful things that you can do as a leader. The last thing, do sweat the small stuff. So you can have the most amazing colleagues and you're doing work that you believe in and you love how you're doing it and you're getting better at your job every day. But if you're sat in that kind of warehouse, it doesn't make up for it forever, right? I have to be very careful not to show the company logo, which is actually on that picture that I found, which amazes me. And so, I'm not a big fan. I think some of the we must treat all techies as delicate flowers that need their laundry doing for them. I'm not sure it's the way forward in the world. But it certainly is. It is the case that there are things that detract from a great place to work and detract from people being able to do awesome work. And so make sure that you pay attention to some of that detail. Make sure that it gets out of the way. So if space to be awesome is about having purpose, believing in why, autonomy, get a say in what, mastery, being proud of how, and inclusion, do you belong here, minus any of that sweatshop stuff, then I hope that you can go and find or shape or make that space. Be awesome, be inclusive. Thank you very much.